What's up, everybody? Welcome to Teen Life Group for today. We're going to continue in our study in Proverbs 18. The title of our series is called Don't Be a Fool, and the title of our lesson today, which is going to be from verse number 14, is A Strong Spirit. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into this verse. This, again, is an incredibly easy proverb. And I think it's just one that kind of like last week, it really just is going to require us just to think about what it is saying. And so I hope it'll be a blessing to you. I really enjoyed studying this one out, and I hope that you guys will too. So let's go ahead and look at our verse here. Proverbs 18:14. You'll see up on the screen that we have a mixture of the New American Standard with the King James here. Verse 14 says this: "The spirit of a man can endure his sickness, but a wounded spirit who can bear?" Okay, so just going to talk through a few words here, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of an outline today. The first word I want to talk about there is the word endure. Okay, endure, it literally means to keep in. It means to contain something, almost like you would in a vessel or a vase or a bucket or something like that. So if you've got a container of some sort and you put something in it, then that vessel contains that whatever it is you got in there. And that's kind of this idea, is that the human spirit, the spirit of a man, is able to contain, is able to endure his sickness. And so endure is a really good word to use to translate this in this context. The word sickness is really easy. It's just disease or an infliction, some kind of physical adversity, I think, really kind of captures that idea. And, just really just kind of talking about the strength of a human spirit and how much we can bear up under. And we'll see that as we kind of get into our outline today. Now, and down to the last part of the proverb, and you'll see this is in the King James, but a wounded spirit, who can bear it? Wounded is a word that means to be broken. It means to be afflicted. A lot of translations like to translate this word as crushed, but a crushed spirit who can bear it. But I think the King James really nails it here with the word wounded. And I really like that, so I kind of blended those together, which, let me take just a minute to say, there's been other lessons where I've combined translations a little bit, or just kind of, and I've used different translations, different weeks. And just so you know kind of why I do that, after I study out the proverb that we're looking at, I look through dozens, well, probably a dozen, 12 or so translations. And once I feel like I understand what that proverb is saying, then I look and see if there's any translations, which ones come what I think to be the closest to that. And so sometimes I like how they translate the first part, and then I like how another translation does the second part, and so I just put them together. Because my goal is that you would just get a really good understanding of what the Hebrew was talking about when Solomon was writing these things. And so I really like how both of those worded those together. So that's kind of why I went that way. A wounded spirit, who can bear? And the word bear at the very end, the very last word, it's a word that just means to lift, to carry. The other day, Joey Burns came over to the house, and I had a safe that it's not a huge gun safe or anything like that. It was it's probably about like that. I can't even get it in the screen or whatever. And my grandfather brought it to me, and my grandfather and I, who I call Pappy, we could not lift this together. We had to use a wheelbarrow and kind of get it up on the porch and those types of things. And so Joy was going to come help me get it into the house. And we kind of had it all planned out about kind of tipping it. We were going to roll it on some PVC pipe to kind of move it. And we kind of got looking at it. And Joey looked at me. He's like, "Man, can we just pick this thing up?" And I was like, "I don't know. I had a really hard time with my Pappy the other day." But then I realized that Joey is a lot stronger than my Pappy is. All right. He's younger. He's got the strong back. And so we decided to see what we could do with it, and we picked it up and we carried it in the house. Didn't have to take it too far. And so what did we do? We bore that safe. We picked it up and we carried it. So, looking at the proverb, the spirit of a man can endure. The spirit of a person can contain his sickness. He can get through physical adversity. And but a broken, crushed, wounded spirit, who's able to carry that? Who's strong enough to lift that, to carry on. And Solomon's going to he kind of gives us kind of a rhetorical answer here, kind of embedded in this. But let's kind of just first, there's only 2 points today. And the first one is this, is that the human spirit is strong. Okay, I've kind of already said that a couple times, but people are able to endure a lot, right? We admire people who have a resiliency about them. We like people who don't quit. We enjoy reading stories about people who don't stop. We like those things. Why? Because that is embedded into the fabric of being a human being. Okay, we tend to look down on quitters. We tend to not look at them favorably, and that's not just a cultural thing. I don't think. I think it is embedded within the spirit of a human being, and so we like resiliency, and human beings are strong. Okay, and the first point under this is that God has hardwired us for strength. We were able to go to Pearl Harbor when we were in Hawaii with the teenagers, and I've got my Pearl Harbor hat on that I got while I was there visiting the harbor there. Beautiful place, and we went on the perfect day. It was teenagers that went. You'll remember this. Hardly a cloud in the sky. Sun is shining. It is exactly the type of weather you would think about when you think about Hawaii. It was a beautiful day. And we got to get on the little ferry there and ride out across the harbor, and we got to see the memorial there where the USS Arizona is still in the water. And you know the guide was kind of narrating for us how things went down that day, and he talked about the Arizona that still sits there in the harbor. He talked about the battleship row and how all the battleships were lined up with each other. He talked about things that happened on the other side of the harbor. He talked about how the Japanese planes came in from around the mountains. And as we get off the ferry, we kind of look around at the outside, and even they have different things inside their little museum, if you will. And it really kind of lays out how the day went. And that is one of the most sobering days that I can remember as far as visiting somewhere historically. And I stood there just outside, and I was just kind of looking around, just kind of taking it in. Such a beautiful place. And I really tried to put myself back in that spot when the attack happened at Pearl Harbor. And I'm looking up over those mountains, and it's like I'm trying to envision those planes coming over the top of those mountains and just the destruction that took place there. And my mind immediately started going to, and even as I looked at this proverb, I thought about this, is the resiliency of the American spirit, right? And so I'm trying to support my country today. And but what did America do? America entered the war at that point. They joined the Allied forces, and what did we do? We bore up the burden of that war, and we led the world into victory. Okay, and so our industry, our soldiers, our military, just individual families. Everybody kind of buckled down, and they went to work. And again, the human spirit is just, again, it's resilient. It doesn't quit. But it goes a little bit deeper than that. Okay, the message today, this is not just about the triumph of the human spirit. All right, even though I think that is kind of the surface level of what Solomon's talking about. But secondly, not only has God hardwired us as humans for strength, but secondly, I think that a person rightly related to God is even stronger. Okay, you see the verse in parentheses. I'm not going to put it up there. 2 Timothy 1:7. 2 Timothy 1:7 is God has not given us the spirit of fear. God has not given us the spirit of cowardice. But what has He given us the spirit of? He's given us the spirit of power. That word power is dunamis. Okay, strength, dynamite power. He has not given us the spirit of fear, but He has given you as a believer. Okay, this is who Paul's talking to Timothy, and he's trying to encourage this young pastor in the faith. Hey, but a spirit of power and love and sound mind or sound judgment. And a person is rightly related to the Lord in faith, and right along with that, that faith brings about a different way that you live, a different way that you think. And listen, a supernatural source of strength. And so how are you related to the Lord? Okay? Are you in the right relationship with him? Christians have the ability to never stop, to never recant, okay? To always move forward. And even as I say that, I know that some people, even people who are listening to this, have gone through tough times, right? We have faced, people have faced sicknesses and diseases and loss of friends and family members. I mean, there are trials never stop. And not just as a human being, but as a Christian, you have the ability to always move forward. And I heard somebody in the military say that it was someone who had suffered the loss of some friends and some comrades, and he was talking about, in the military we have this ability to move forward, to keep pressing forward, and he was making a comment. It's not that we move on from those past things, because those past events shape our lives. Okay, some people who have lost friends and loved ones, hey, those people, you're not forgetting those people. You're not moving on from those people, or you're not moving on from those tough times, but you're moving forward. And I think there's a drastic difference there. And so, again, how are you related to the Lord? Okay, the Lord has embedded into the fabric of a human being to be strong. The spirit of a man can endure sickness, his physical adversity. But then we get into the second part here. A wounded spirit, who can bear that? Okay, so the first point, the human spirit is strong. Okay, and we'll kind of make some concluding remarks about that in a second. But secondly, before we do that, you got to get this: is that you don't stay down. Okay, yeah, listen. You don't need me to tell you. We're going to have bad days, right? And some days are really bad. Some days are not too bad, but we're going to have bad days, right? Look at this, first of all, up under this, is that an emotionally depressed spirit is dangerous. Think about that. And think about the contrast there. The spirit of a man can endure his sickness. But why is it dangerous to be emotionally depressed in your spirit? And you hear a lot of talk about depression, okay? People's emotions just kind of going crazy sometimes. And people struggle with a lot of different things. And, I'm not trying to claim to be a doctor or anything like that by any means, but I do know what the Word of God says. And as a pastor, it's my job to give you that, okay? An emotionally depressed spirit is dangerous. And I want to tell you why, okay? Why I think so. And to help us with that, I want to put some more quotes before you. This is from a guy, Bruce Waltke. He's written a commentary on the book of Proverbs as well. And this is what he says. When the spirit is gone, a person is as good as dead. That's pretty blunt. But what is he saying? He's saying that once a person's spirit within them is just deflated, according to this proverb, who can bear up under that? I mean, that is the source of our strength as human beings. Okay, if our spirit is depressed, what hope do we have? And that's kind of why he says it so bluntly. When the spirit is gone, a person is as good as dead. And you think about that. And this is that rhetorical question, answer I'm talking about earlier. What does Solomon say? But a wounded spirit, who can bear that? Who can carry that crushed, broken spirit? And the implied answer is nobody. You cannot bear up under that. That's why it is so dangerous if you're emotionally depressed in your spirit. Okay? The first part of the proverb really highlights physical adversity. The second part of this proverb is emphasizing emotional adversity. Okay? And there's a difference between those things. And the proverb is telling us that emotional adversity is tougher than physical adversity. And sometimes those things intertwine, and the struggle is real. Okay? Life is hard. And Bruce Walkie, he also says one other thing here. I'll show another quote to you. This one's a little longer. Okay, let's think about it. He's talking about what this proverb is talking about. He says this proverb juxtaposes, and that word is just, it means to compare. It means to put two things side by side, to compare and to see them contrast one another. Okay, to juxtapose. All right, this proverb juxtaposes fortitude in present adversity that leads to triumph. Okay, so the first part of the proverb, he uses the word fortitude. Okay, we talked about the human spirit kind of in our outline, right? Fortitude, even in the midst of adversity, that can lead to triumph. That's how strong the human character is, okay, and the strength that God has put in us as his creatures. But what is it comparing it to? This proverb juxtaposes fortitude in present adversity that leads to triumph against what? It compares it to spiritual depression, even without adversity, that leads to defeat. So why is spiritual depression so dangerous? It's because it leads to defeat. Who can bear up under it? Nobody. Okay? I cannot carry the big safe by myself. It's actually a small safe. I cannot bear up under it. I can't lift it. I can't carry it. That's what a wounded spirit is like. No one can lift it. And that's why it is so dangerous for you to fall into an emotional state of what we would call depression. Okay? Just being down and out. And this kind of leads us to the second thing, all right, under this. And that's this. Is that, much like our first point, we said that the human spirit is strong and that God has hardwired us for strength. And we said that a person rightly related to God is even stronger. The same thing here. A person rightly related to God can be lifted up. Okay? Who can bear up a wounded, crushed spirit? Nobody. But one person. How are you related to the Holy Spirit of God? He is the one that lifts us up. He is the one that brings strength into our lives. And let me put the verse back up here for you. Okay, you see the word spirit highlighted there twice. The spirit of a man can endure his sickness, but a wounded spirit who can bear? The word spirit is used twice there, and it is used. It is the same word. The same Hebrew word is the word ruach. You may have heard of that before. But grammatically, these two words are different. Okay? They're both nouns. It's the exact same Hebrew word, but there is a slight difference in form, in grammatical form. And I think that slight difference in form, one is a little bit stronger of a form, or at least it indicates a little bit stronger of a form in this instance. And the second one kind of indicates a more delicate, weaker sense of the word. And normally these two types of forms do not indicate this. But it's important here because the word is used so closely together and the two forms are used differently. And there's really, I don't see any other reason why, but just to kind of push the issue just a little bit more that, hey, a person who has a strong spirit, because they're rightly related to the Lord, that person, what are they doing? They are bearing up under. They are enduring their struggles. But a person who is not drawing their strength from the Lord, that is a weaker spirit, all right? A weaker person. They are not rightly related to God, and therefore they go into they go into depression, and what happens? They are not able to lift themselves up out of that. And that's what the proverb is teaching. And so there's a slight change in form here that I think kind of shows that, you can go to the wrong place. You can be a person of strong spirit or a little person of a weaker spirit. Okay. And it's the idea that you cannot lift this up yourself. And so what do people do? People go to outside sources for help. For a Christian, what outside source do they go to? The Lord. Now, I realize the Holy Spirit lives within us, but I think you know what I'm saying. I'm going to someone outside of myself. I'm going to the Lord. But a lot of people in this world, they don't turn to Him. And what happens? They have to go to outside sources as well because they cannot bear up their wounded spirit So what do they turn to? They turn to things like drugs. They turn to things like alcohol. They turn to relationships. They turn to anything that would try to cheer them up or to lift their spirit, so to speak. And this is where the world really messes up, because the person who is ultimately lifted up is the one who puts their trust in the Lord, that ultimately goes to Him for help. And so it's so important that we don't stay down. We're going to have bad days and we're going to struggle, okay? That's part of the human experience too, all right? Struggle is part of it. Who are you going to go to when you have those bad days? You may have a slight bad day, but if you don't go to the Lord, if you don't get your strength in the right place, then where does that go? Nowhere. Okay? We all go through tough times. Who are you going to go to? If you can't bear that burden, where are you going? And I'm not talking about not going to other people for help, like your friends. I mean, that's part of what the Christian community is for. That's what the church is for. But that's not what this is talking about, right? This is talking about, hey, you've got a wounded spirit, okay? And you cannot bear that. The ultimate source of strength is the Lord. And that's one thing that the Christian community brings into your life. Hey, we're going to help you because we're going to direct you to the one who can help you, all right? We're going to take you to the strong person, all right? Are you rightly related to the ultimate source of strength? Who do you rely on? Are you relying on your own strength? Because that is not going to cut it, okay? As humans, hey, we're strong. As Christians, we can always move forward. We can be strong. But there comes a point where you need the ultimate strength, and that comes from our Lord. So, hey, let's go to God for strength, and don't be a fool. You guys have a good one. I'll see you next time.